right, it seems we're now live. Thank you, Leonardo. I think that was part of a nice introduction about Chitra. Uh, Welcome everyone to Critical Conditions, the Mind of Nature. The
Mhm.
topic of this conversation is intertwining the ecologies of art, food, and activism. The session is now live, and I was going to ask you both if you could do a little introduction about you and your work, and why did you decide to join this panel today?
Mhm. So this question goes to me, right? um,
Yeah.
well, yes. I mean, I've been working in a food collective or a kitchen collective. Oh no, now it's also someone joining.
Lena's just joined. Hello, Lena. Leonardo was
Hi,
just in.
Anna.
Hello,
Hello.
Hi, hi.
hello.
Everyone.
We were just about to introduce ourselves. Maybe you can go first, and then I will continue. Lena.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Lena?
Yeah, sure. Is my connection all right here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I'm Lena Vincent, and I'm an art historian and curator based in Goa. I have been associated with the Story of in their previous edition of the festival, and I work with a cross section of education in the arts, museum curation, as well as gallery curation, and a certain amount of activism as well. So that's more or less my background. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, so I guess I will continue. I actually also made a presentation, a little presentation with mainly pictures, where I actually wanted to tell you what we've done like in the past years as a food collective. So in one hand, there's like my own artistic practice, and then we also had a lot of work that we did as a collective, and it was a group of people who came like from different fields. We had like chefs, we had people who studied art, we had people who studied environmental engineering. So it was very bright in the sense of the background. And I think I will actually just like start by showing you what I prepared. And can you see like
Yes.
my screen
Yeah.
now? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super. So I hope this works well. So to show also a bit like how we worked, I would like to start with the beginning. And it was mainly, I have to say, also, I listened yesterday to the panel discussion shortly, where, for example, Johannes said that you can't think nature without culture. Or it was even Robin, I think, who said like that it's not possible to just separate those things. And
Yeah.
for us, it was also like the same, because we studied at the art school in Basel, where I'm based, and there was like this change where they had like the idea to get all the faculties to one place, to one campus, which has maybe a very which is a good idea, or is has something which I think is very interesting, to connect all the faculties which were distributed in the city. But the problem we faced was the landscape or the architecture at that place, because it was newly built. It was full of concrete. So it was not really a place where we would feel comfortable to come together, to exchange also. So that's somehow the start of our collective, that we thought, okay, we need to create something where we get together, where we can have talks, where we can eat together, where we can just be together and exchange what we learn, what we think. So this was mainly like the beginning. Here you can see like there was one classroom where we just brought like the vegetables and stuff, and we started to cook, and somehow also like get active and try to change also something on that place. And also we started also like to go into the cities also because the campus is quite isolated in Basel. It's in the suburbs of Basel, so there's not a lot of connectivity to the center. So we always had our bikes and took all the stuff we had because we didn't have that much at that time, and also cooked at different places. And a very essential thing was already at that point the food sharing, which is kind of work that we did with food waste, because there is an organization from Germany who also came to Switzerland, which is food sharing, which is somehow internet platform which connects like the different supermarkets with people who are interested to save all the food waste. So we started to use that as our material to cook, and it was so much and was actually overwhelming that we also started to create like those stands in front of the school where we put like, you know, I think over the years tons of vegetables that would have gone to the bin. So all the students after school, they just got by the stand and took some vegetables home to cook. So this was somehow the start of everything, and it started to grow. We also did dumpster diving, which goes more into the area which is not necessarily legal, not yet, at least in Switzerland. There have been a lot of efforts from big companies like to avoid those practices, but we did that anyway because of
I
our
don't.
yes,
What
sorry.
is what is the what is that actually? Dumpster.
Dumpster
Is
diving, it's it's a practice where you go actually directly to the supermarkets to where they throw their products away. So mainly they have those green bins like you can see, and they put them in the night after they close, and then in the morning they just I think a car comes and takes them away and throws them away. So what we do is like go in the night and harvest for vegetables and products that are still eatable. But it's there have been cases where people have been convicted because of stealing. So it's a gray area of legally speaking. But that was kind of the beginning, and then we also started to cook with all those products, also connect with other projects. This was, for example, a place which was called Zo Bleibe, where they tried to work mainly with asylum seekers who didn't have the chance to work in Basel because of their legal state. Which is very uncomfortable for them because they need somehow to survive, but they can't work. They don't get the permission to. So that was kind of a way to get them a bit of a pocket money. It was very symbolically, but so it was also very much a way of connecting. And by the years, it also like started to grow, and we got asked to cook also like for festivals and manifestations and events, where we more and more started also like to focus more on bioproducts, because I think there was like this time of shift where we thought like it's actually also very important to consume something which we believe is healthy, and also like to support like those producers who really care about the environment and sustainability. So oh yeah, I actually was a bit too fast. This was actually just 2 years ago, and this is where I also wanted to talk a bit about our artistic practice inside of the collective, which was maybe a little bit like a chameleon. So sometimes we were very politically engaged as activists supporting manifestations. And sometimes we also had like this interest of maybe something very performative, which comes from the art. So this was a collaboration that we did in Marseille with a performance collective, some friends of us. And they invited us because they had like this idea to do something together. And we started by taking a fairy tale, which is a French fairy tale, which is called Le Soupe aux Cailloux, which means like the stone soup. And it's a story for children where they tell the story of a wolf who goes from village to village, and people are mainly like skeptical or scared, but the wolf somehow tries to have food in every village. So he goes and says like he will make a big feast, a big party, a big gathering, and he will take care of everything. They don't have to be concerned. And then he goes like from household to household, seeing that they have like maybe a half cut onion on the board, and asking them, oh, this would fit perfectly into my soup. Can I take this? And they agree because they think, okay, well, if he says so. And at the end, he actually, by going from house to house, he collects like so much food that he can really cook that meal, that feast for everyone. So that was like the background of our performance. And what we did is like go through the city of Marseille with tools that we built, and also like, so we would like knock on the windows of the first floors, and people would actually get out and be very confused also, but also very happy to have somehow someone talking with them, because it's very unusual. So at the end, we actually collected quite some vegetables and food just by going through the streets of Marseille. And we also always invited them to come to the dinner. And so it happened that many different people came together. And this was like a apartment where we did that action. And this was a table that we constructed specially for that occasion, because we made that soup, and it was somehow like connecting the whole community that came to eat. And now to come back to what I was saying about the shift, was that we began with food sharing, with food waste, the eating of food waste. But there was somehow, I think, this process, and I think especially talking about activism and art, it's so much about process. And for us, it feels like, okay, we started with this idea of cooking with food waste, but there was this point where we started to think, well, wait, I mean, we start to eat food and products that we would never buy in a supermarket. So the question of the own health, and also like supporting, and how do we support, was somehow popping up, and was shifting us more and more towards like trying to actively support local producers and organic food. So that's when we somehow started to also work on a network. So we got to work with local agriculture gardeners and farmers. And we also then found out that they also have the same issue with food waste. So they have also the issue that they have like all these products, vegetables, carrots, potatoes that don't look good. They are too big, they are too small, they can't really sell them. So we started to collect them and also go to their farm, collecting all that food. And then we built a stand, a little room in a house project where some of us were living, and we put them there, and people could get some of the vegetables at any hour, and give a collect, and all the collect would go back to the farmers. So that was somehow like a source for our cooking projects. And at the same time, we also kind of try to support like a larger community with very good, valuable food. So this was, for example, a manifestation that we went, and I wanted to show especially that one because I think that was or is a nice example to show how we also tried to combine different aspects of activism, art, and food and cooking, because we saw, or we, there's always like sometimes this very direct, how can I say, very productive way of seeing this, like, okay, people need food, we cook, and then you have the food and that's it. But for us, it was also about somehow creating a community around those events. And so that was actually a manifestation which was against Bayer and Monsanto, who are the big companies producing a lot of chemicals, biochemicals, like glyphosate and paraquat, that I guess in India is also a very big topic or a big issue, as far as I know.
Very
And
much.
way too much, yes. And so they're based in Switzerland, and we have every year a big manifestation against those practices. So what we did is, like, in a 3-day program, we kind of started on the first day by asking people to come to the farm and to harvest also together, and also trying to get the aspect of community creating. We invited a good friend of us, which is called Leopold, to read some texts while the others were harvesting. So it was very much about creating community, be on the fields, have also like this experience, this very close experience to what does it mean to work on the fields, to harvest,
And your
yes.
responses were like, lots of people came and engaged with these activities, or was it slow, or, a really positive kind of response?
Well, I think it was slow. I mean, it's because it takes time, and I think that's also especially here in Basel, where everyone is very focused on its own businesses. Somehow, it's very difficult also to get people to do such things. You have to have the possibility to take time, and also like sometimes also have the courage to get into a community when you don't really know them. So it was very slow, but nevertheless, I think that's just how also it starts, and yeah, and yeah, that was at the end, like the food that we served. Um, yeah,
That looks amazing.
thank you. And another project where we also that was actually at the school, at the campus. I think I also wanted just to show how we thought about also somehow try to include the people who come to eat, because I think that's also something that we somehow realized during the years that we've been cooking, that it can go so fast that people have like this expectation of consumption, where they get somewhere and food is just being served and you just consume it. And so we also sometimes tried to force people to get active and not just to have this expectation and keep with expectation. So we had like this one dinner at the school where we told the people, we actually just bought the woods, and we said, like, we don't have a table yet. If you want to eat on a table, we have to build this together. So that's actually, and it actually happened, and there are always like dynamics, but I think that's the main thing, that people also get in contact with each other and also like have to find a way how it works. So yeah, and that was that event. And also that was maybe this picture I also chose to, because that was after a manifestation where it finished already, I think 3 or 4 hours ago, and it was after having lunch at our place. And for me, it was a very nice picture to see the people still staying at that place after the manifestation finished. Yeah, because, and maybe I also have to explain also cultural backgrounds. I don't know how it is in India, but like as far as I experience it here in Basel, you know, I think we're shifting more and more into a very individualist society where like the moments of contact, of gatherings get shorter and shorter because you just stay at home and you have like this connectivity through digital mediums, but then, you know, it's the other part is somehow missing. And so for me, it was a very special moment to see the people staying at that place, talking, discussing, and also just relaxing after such a day. Yeah.
It is different, I guess, if I may interrupt.
Yes.
Um, for us, I think as a culture in India, food automatically brings people together, and it's a very this sort of social extension of the family is very important.
Mm-hmm.
People are always gathering and spending time. So this, period of the pandemic has
Mm-hmm.
really been very difficult, I think, for an enormous number of people all across the world, but particularly here during festivals and things where people have to be together. It's been, I think, quite a challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
the others here will definitely, I think, agree with me. And so this whole idea of coming together for food is something very prominent in
But I
and
think in a lot of ways, like the rest of the world, I think even in India, what is happening is that coming together has gone down a lot, even in our country, compared to the way it used to be earlier. Is
perhaps, yeah,
right?
must be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to
Because
share oh, sorry.
So
Please
no, I guess
continue.
because like you were mentioning, because of social media, because people think they are connected in other ways, there is no effort made to like come together. And food is definitely a great way to get people together, like shared tables.
yeah, yeah.
I just shared a link of an earlier project I have done with Artport Making Waves
Mm-hmm.
and Anne Marie Melster, who is in fact part of this program.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a year-long project that was supported by the Goethe Institute,
Yeah.
continued in two Indian cities, that's Bangalore and Hyderabad. And it really talked about a variety of aspects connected to food, from production to consumption and sale of it in cities, and also waste management. So it
Mm-hmm.
was an interesting project where we tried to bring in uh, different layers of people and also participants, right from educators to teachers to artists, scientists, and also a couple of policymakers here and there who were willing to participate and to actually engage with different aspects of how we can make a creative change uh, in our personal lives and spaces. So it
Mm-hmm.
also involved, like you showed, this sort of um, coming together and cooking together on one day and having everyone
Mm-hmm.
meet and share this responsibility of doing whatever it is, and making that the meeting ground. So it was quite inspiring to see, the number of projects you've done. This was an interesting project. It involved a lot of different people, including artists working with video and performance, and also things like Repair Cafe, which was just about repairing things from the kitchen, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I shared the link, and you can
Yep.
have a look later.
Yeah, I will have a check then. Yeah. Thank you. So we have also someone joining now, right?
Yeah,
She's here.
Hello.
Hello.
I think we can hear her.
But Minnie, would you like to introduce yourself?
um,
Maybe.
are
Her
you
mic.
muted?
No.
She's not on mute. I think she needs earphones or headphones.
Let's see. Oh, apparently there is a problem in the system. But maybe if you try and leave the Zoom call and then quit the Zoom system and then come back again, sometimes it works. It's a very old technique. Like quitting everything and then coming back. So hopefully it works from my experience. Otherwise, you can also use the chat and we can voice your questions. Shall we do that? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be doing that then. Okay. So we can continue the conversation. Leonardo, would you like to?
Well, I was, I think, almost finished. I don't know. I think I remember when I thought about what could I present exactly. I had like this moment of okay, I actually also have to contextualize what we did, especially regarding like how do we gather actually. Because I knew like it's like the project is mainly India based, so you have a different background, you have a different story and also a different knowledge. So for us, it was also it seemed to be very special to also have these gatherings, and also sometimes just like on the bridge. We did now twice a gathering on top of a bridge where it's public space, and which is just not common here to see people gathering in that way. So I think there are like also like differences between the countries, and maybe I also if I can continue.
Yep.
I don't know if I took it away. Oh. Okay. So, oh yeah. So this was actually on the bridge, and it was also like a very nice evening. And it was also very interesting to see all the people pass by, because when something is not usual, people tend like to maybe just look or be also ask, what are you actually doing, and then also like get in contact with people, because I think that's also something that happens very fast when you're a community or you have certain events, that how can you open it, to other people, because there's also always like this border of how to get in contact. And also something which I really liked once, something where we collaborated actually at the Art Basel, which is one of the biggest art fairs on the globe, and which is also based in Basel, was that we collaborated with an artist from Thailand and America who's called Rirkri Tiravanisha. And he's been cooking a lot. He's working a lot with food. So he came to Basel, and we had like this platform in the main square where people could eat something and for free. And we contributed our part, and we cooked with him. And there was like this situation. That's why I chose this photograph, which I liked a lot, and which was like that. Because it was so. I mean, the art fair. I don't know if you have been to one like this, which is so huge and it's overwhelming because it's so much happening, and it's all about business, and there are a lot of business people coming to that art fair.
Money.
money, a lot. Yeah, don't have any time. But at our place, our policy was always that you have to wash your own dishes at the end of the meal. So it was so nice to see the people lined up, having actually also maybe a moment of reflection, that it doesn't go so fast. You also, because it's all connected. It's not that you just can consume something and then it's just you start and you end it and you don't have to think about it anymore. So for us, it was very much also somehow trying to figure out how can we reach the people, and maybe also like have them to pay attention to certain things. And I think that's also what's maybe activism all about, to have attention in that moment. And yes,
if
please.
I may just interrupt, in the sense that right now in these months during the pandemic, when I think the economic situation of many has been very difficult, what has your collective been doing something particular in these terms? That is, to get through to communities who need during this time, or doing something specific for people to, donate or share?
Well, I mean, we've been continuing with the little store that we have with the vegetables. That's something that's an ongoing project that's always there. But we had actually issues because one farm, because Basel is just next to the border, one farm is in Germany, so we couldn't get there first in the first season of the pandemic. But yeah, well, I mean, we actually paused now our activities as a collective, because it was very time consuming, and it was also quite exhausting in the last years, because we never earned money in the sense that we could pay something for us. So, I think you also get to a certain point where it becomes very difficult, because you also have to pay rent and everything. So now it was kind of a pause, and I mean, I think it's sad that it's like that, but I think for us it's also maybe just also a moment of transition and change, and I might also talk about how it's changing, because like now, because all of us, we were focusing on different things. Now there are little projects coming out of this big collective. So for me, it's very nice and beautiful to see that something starts, but something also ends or transforms into different projects. So one is two of the collective are trying to organize somehow a self-taught how do you say self-taught education program for farmers, like especially ecological farming, biodynamic farming. And because they studied and they thought like the most things that are taught are very conventional methods of farming here in Switzerland. So that's something that's coming out from there. And also someone who's starting to open a bakery where he bakes with very traditionally with sourdough in a wood oven. So there are also, again, like small projects coming out of this. And that's how it's also evolving. And I think that's something very important to see, that projects are not stiff, it's something which is living,
Yeah.
Thank you. I think Padmini, she's able to
Speak now.
Oh no, I don't think it's working. No. But we can use the chat. Yeah, definitely we can use the chat, and I'll pass on the information. Shitra, is there any things you would like to mention? Yeah.
Yes. So I had a question. So in India, there is a huge amount of consumption now that we see of food that doesn't come from the region.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a lot of food that is imported into the country, grains and produce. And how do you think that affects the ecology, like ecological balance, in terms of, consuming and using more local produce?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I don't have I wouldn't say I'm an expert in this field. We've been working a lot with food, and we've been thinking a lot about that. I would say, I mean, that's something that we here in the Western world, in Basel, in Switzerland, have been facing since many years, because we've been living from a lot of products from outside the country. And I think there are many issues, and that's also why we started to collaborate with local farmers, and food that's been growing here, not because of a nationalist thought, but
No, not
more.
naturally.
No, but it can happen. But because I think it just makes sense to support the community where you live. It also just makes sense to use and keeping alive like the products that we have here, because what we see now is that the diversity is decreasing, because they start to use corn and crops which are specialized for mass productions. And that's something here. We have small initiatives. One is called Prospezia Rara. They started to try to revitalize, relive like old crops, old sorts of vegetables. And I think that's, for me, it's the only way to go. It just makes sense. And then there's also, I think, the health part.
Yes.
Because what I know from here is that people started like to consume like during because here we have like the seasons very marked. Winter is quite cold, summer can be quite hot. So we have like this variety of vegetables, which the most grow in summer, but we also have a lot which grow in autumn and winter. And it's just proven, and there's actually research about the importance to eat seasonal food, because like the cabbage, all those cabbage sorts that we have here, they actually contribute to your own immune system in winter, because it's also like something about paying attention to what nature does, and in somehow it makes sense, because we are also animals, and animals also just they only have seasonal food actually. So why shouldn't we also eat like that?
Yeah. Also, in Basel, where you're from, is there any particular traditional produce that farmers feel is not being produced or is not being bought enough? Has your collective in any way like used that produce in your food so that it becomes more popular and it can be produced more?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's something that we've been trying to do. And we also connected, because there are some collectives in Switzerland, but also in whole Europe, and we are also somehow connected. And someone who lived in Bern and also started to join our collective also had his food project in that city. And he was super good in getting connected with all the local farmers. And so sometimes we we had like we had vegetables that neither I have ever seen before, and then I also had like to learn, okay, that's something that actually grew many years ago here also in Switzerland. And then we actually also tried to use them. And it was nice to see also that people were interested to know, I have never heard about this, or this tastes actually good. I never thought about this vegetable to use it. And something that has been increasing here in Switzerland is like this community-based agriculture. There are more and more initiatives trying to, where you can like order a basket and you also contribute something to the agriculture community by helping sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, in Goa here also there are several now collectives that have come together to take over farms and work, work on also work in more traditional systems of farming. And I think like Chitra, the question you asked reminded me that also, the millets, how millets are being popularized now.
Yes, yes.
And which is great, and it has so many health benefits. But we also have the other extreme of the kind of advertising that is happening with some using the term organic, or as a face to sell everything, and sell more expensive materials. So we are always facing two sides of it. So somewhere I think we have to address both sides, because when something becomes a trend and becomes interesting, then it's taken over by the other side somehow, or so it seems, So this is happening here, definitely in India. So
yeah, and it's also sad sometimes, because I think in Switzerland we have a lot of products from India, because we talking about all the spices and the rice and everything, and it's so absurd to see that development. I also know a lot about what's happening in Mexico, because my uncle is a farmer there, and they have actually quite some issues with the production of corn, because they export everything to the States to import from the States, and this example is just ridiculous, but it's existing. And it's especially existing in a world where there's like this separation of everything. So it becomes very, you try to see everything very isolated, and then there is no connectivity. And I think that's why we as collective also were so interested also in that process of gatherings, and also connect and try to know where certain things come from. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Time for one more question, intervention from you guys. Anything?
Padmini.
Oh, we have a question from Padmini.
Okay.
How you associate food with art, and how relevant this is going to be in this period, in this trying period?
Food in art.
Yes.
Well, I think it would go too far, because now that we paused our activities for this moment with our collective, I started actually to include it more into my own artistic practice, where I am interested to work or maybe rethink sculpturing also with different materials. I've been working with mushrooms to use it as a material to mold also, but also to have something which is a hybrid between something that can be eaten, that can be consumed, that takes also a very big part in the process of ecological systems. So that's something which I'm very interested in, and I see that in the art fields, I hear more and more about people being interested in all those aspects of having something, or having a product or an art piece which isn't finished, where you say, okay, I make this sculpture out of stone, and then it's just finished, and it doesn't change anymore. But there is more and more, I think, the interest for a process, for a change, and I think that's what nature is all about. It never stays in its moment.
Thank you very much, Chitra, Lena, and Padmini. I will stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be great to stay in touch and know what's happening.
Yes, thank you.
Bye for
All of
now.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
Anna.
Bye. Leonardo, we'll stay on just for a few questions. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Leonardo, thank you so much for your for sharing your experience. I have a few questions.
Yes.
You. We have about like 12 minutes for these.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you spoke a lot about your practice and your work, and I wanted to try and understand what's the beginning of your interest in food sustainability and how that came about for you as an artist, but also for you as a human.
Well, that's a difficult question, I guess. I mean, I think it starts very early. I think in my family where I grew up, food was very important, and also somehow I guess the quality of food. My mom, coming from a very little village in Mexico where my grandfather was also a farmer, knew very well about farming, agriculture, and had also like the very direct access to very good and organic food at that time. And then the youngest uncle took over the farm and started to face a lot of issues, and also a lot of issues with the big companies that sell the seeds that are GMO seeds. And I think I also understood that something was wrong and something was happening there. So I think for me that was something to know that someone from my family is facing those issues that we have in food production and in agriculture. Kind of made me very concerned and also very sad and angry also at that time. So I think that was something very important to start to think like, how could we change something and how to get active by myself. Yes.
And so what do you think are the main obstacles that you or other people reporting on issues related with food sustainability might face? Of course, I think there is an increase of like awareness of this subject, and people are more aware and more open to discuss it. I mean, I think we've seen an increase of like veganism and vegetarianism in the last few years, and that's quite inspiring and at the same time motivating and hopeful.
Yeah.
But what are the issues that you can face as being
Well, I think that's the point maybe where I have sometimes different ideas about what's the issue, because for me it feels like it's not a lack of awareness or a lack of information, because we have so much information. I mean, we're somehow like the century of information, digital information. So it's almost too much information. And we know already a lot. We've read already a lot about the issues that we're facing in sustainability, agriculture. And for me, I think nowadays it's more a lack of connectivity, that we don't have this very direct affection anymore. We don't know what it really means to be working on a field. We don't really know what it means to be in touch directly. And I think that was also somehow our approach to this topic, not only being part of events and manifestations which are very political, and they have their role in this change making, I guess. But I think we also need to learn how to to become a community again, because I think that's something that we're losing more and more, and where I don't really trust like the developments in like digital communities, because like there's this distance which for me it feels at least it feels like there is a distance which you can't replace by digital connectivity.
Thank you. I was speaking earlier about cross-modelism, basically as it's a collective that started in London, and one of the people, Charles Michel, he's actually a big advocate of like food sustainability. He's an artist working on food painting and really creating awareness around food, food sustainability, and he like one of his aspects was around like he joined the cross model research lab also here in the UK, and he's really interested in like the fact that the food brings basically more layers in terms of like multisensorial art form. And I mean, a lot of your work is also about that, like giving that multisensory experience to the audience that they are part of. And I mean, and of course, you mentioned as well that this is a difficult or kind of a time where it's difficult to do performance and to work in your place, but also a good opportunity to like rethink and plan your next project. Can you tell us a little bit more of what you're planning and what's coming next?
Well, how I said, I mean, maybe I can also show. Can I also show pictures of? Because I actually also prepared for the end of the exactly. So now I wanted actually to go further, but I thought like in the bigger round it's almost too much. I've been working on exactly what you were saying with the multisensoric aspect of food, and I had this residency in the center of Switzerland where I distilled needles from trees like pine trees and created those drinks and cocktails that could be consumed in that environment. So for me, it was again about this idea of trying to get as many aspects as something can have to an experience. So it wouldn't just be like this. You couldn't just consume something without having to be there to notice that place. And also, I guess it was also about this creating a moment of rest where you take time and where you can observe many things and have your experience in that part of cultural landscape or nature. And yeah, so I think I will probably continue with those kind of works. And also what I said about the mycelium and the mushrooms, that I'm very much interested in the organism itself, that to think a sculpture as something which is living and which can also be eaten somehow. So working on these hybrids, I think that's something which I'm very, very interested right now. Yeah.
Leonardo, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
It was really nice to learn more about your work, and I really enjoyed the panel discussion.